Hello, everybody. My name is Alexis. I'm an entrepreneur, speaker, and author of the book A Journey into Truth, Unveiling Life's Secrets for Truth Seekers. And you are watching the Vibrate to Create YouTube channel. And on this channel, I talk about life, philosophy, meaning, art, spirituality, metaphysics, and so much more. If you're interested in topics like these, then click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to be notified of when I post new videos so you never miss a video. Thank you for being a part of my journey. I hope you enjoyed today's video. So, when we're talking about God, so I saw Eckhart Tolle live, right?
And I'm not talking about...
And it was very cool to finally see him in person because he was one of the first teachers that I really learned from and read his book, The Power of Now. Well, really, I listened to it as an audiobook. And also one of the teachers who really taught me about diving into meditation and into the quiet mind and the still mind and the peace. And that was one of the teachers who really helped me to find peace in some of the most chaotic times of my life. And so it was very exciting to see him in person. I had actually had the tickets to see him like years before because it was right before COVID happened, and then COVID caused it to just get pushed out like years ahead. And so I finally got to be there in person. We got there late because I got stuck in traffic, but we made it, me and my mom, because I bought her the ticket for a Christmas present. And so finally I was like sitting there and just feeling, because I'm so sensitive to everything, like I can feel things so clearly, things that people aren't saying, things that people are feeling. And so when you're in a room of like hundreds of people who are all into meditation and just into spirituality, it's a really beautiful feeling. And you almost kind of get sucked into this energy of quiet and stillness, especially when there's a teacher who's really worked on themselves in that way. And I think it's important not to look up to people like as your gurus or as higher than you or as more than you. And he even talked about that in this particular thing. I'll get into that in a second because I wanted to share one of the messages that he gave to us in that meeting. I'll talk about it later because I want to talk about God before I forget. But he also talked about God, and he said he doesn't like to say the word God or to talk about God because it came up accidentally. And so then he said, well, I guess we're going to talk about God. And the energy of the space when he brought in that word, it was so beautiful. It was like, whoosh, you just felt it because the whole audience, like their consciousness and their mind started to think about this thing that is so broad and huge and also is such a beautiful thing when you think about it in a very different way. But he said he doesn't like to talk about God because there's so many misconceptions about this word. You know, when we talk about religion and we talk about ideas of a judgmental figure who's kind of like overseeing you and all of your deeds, like almost like a Santa Claus, like you did a good thing so you go to heaven and you did a bad thing so you go to hell. And I think even that can be interpreted in many different ways, because if we say, well, you did a bad thing and you will create your own hell, but it's not necessarily like a sense of condemnation that you are going to be condemned for the rest of your life or for eternity in a place that's not here where you currently are. But it could also be interpreted that you decide your fate when you're here in this physical world, but not that necessarily that there's something outside of yourself that when you die, you go there and you go here. But it's more like here in the physical reality, what are you creating for yourself? Like a lesson in that sense. And I haven't studied the Bible or like the words too like deeply or intensely. Like I haven't read the whole thing. I just know tiny little snippets. I don't know like quotes and things like that. But I think to me, when I learned it when I was much younger, I remember being really afraid. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to hell if I do something bad. I'm a sinner. If I'm a bad person. And then it's like, even that, I started to really dive deep into of like, what is good and what is bad. And we've talked about it on my channel before in my Sadhguru video and my Sadhguru reaction video. But when we talk about this idea of what is God, and really, he even said like, it's like the nature of all that is. And he also said that in the spiritual field, there are some people who, you know, they get into this meditative state and they get into this God state and they understand like, oh, I am that. I am God. But he said also, it's almost like saying, like, let's say there's this sun, right? The sun rays that go onto the earth is not the actual sun. He's saying like, you're like an emanation from that thing, but not necessarily that you are that thing. Because sometimes people can like get into the space where they're like, well, I'm God. I am one with all. And then it's like, I'm the creator. And then it's like, but yes, but also, at least this was what he believed, and also kind of what I believe. It's like that we are all those sun rays. I feel like that's such a good analogy, like the sun rays and the parts of that one thing. But also if you look at like the plants are part of that one thing, or the animals are part of that one thing, even like this table and the molecules. And like Albert Einstein really believed that there was the energetic molecules that created this particular thing that is here in the physical reality. Like there's much more to this than just a table, right? I think they say it's like bouncing molecules that create this particular thing. I have to change my battery. I'll be right back. It's just a very interesting topic because there are so many, like we said, the different religions, different avenues and ways of believing what is God. But I think it's very beautiful, like I was saying earlier, that there is somebody who is like very connected to the very general public and really causing different shifts in the ways that people are asking different questions or diving deeper into understanding the nature of things, or like, how did we get here? What is the meaning of life? Things like that. It's really exciting and shows that there is going to be a huge shift in consciousness coming. I feel it too. I feel like that's definitely what's going on, because I definitely had to go through a really tough time before I started to kind of ponder these questions or think about these questions. And so right now there is a lot of people going through very tough times, and in those times of turbulence cause a lot of change and searching for meaning, searching for more happiness or more peace or serenity. And so I feel it'll be a very good thing for humanity, where we currently are and where we're going. So before I go, I wanted to share that thing that Eckhart Tolle was talking about. So he shared this analogy about spiritual teachers. He said that he gave this story that he was walking in, a forest or the woods by his house or something. And there was this couple that was also walking, and then they like stopped him and they said, "Hey, you look really familiar." And he was like, "Oh yeah, blah, blah, blah." And then they were like, "Oh, I know where you're from." They said, and then he turned to his wife, this other couple, and he said, "This guy's a famous YouTuber." And then Eckhart, he said when they like when he kept walking away from them after they said hello, he thought to himself, "Oh, I'm a famous YouTuber." And he said he really has to be very conscious as a teacher to leave that role behind when he leaves the space, because so many people put him on this kind of higher pedestal. I'm adding my own things to what he said now. But so many, it's very easy to step into this role and to believe, oh, I'm such a cool, good person because I'm a famous YouTuber, or I'm a teacher that people come to see, that hundreds of people come to see. So he has to put it aside as he walks out into the normal world after he does his teachings. And I thought that's very insightful. And he even said, I know a lot of you here are going to be teachers of some kind or of some sort in this field. So for you, it will be very important. And I felt like he was talking to me, and maybe, I'm sure, to a huge chunk of that audience. And he said it's very important to not get too lost in your identity of who you become as you become a teacher or a leader in this field. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to keep that in my back pocket along my journey. To not get too focused on, oh, I'm a spiritual teacher and I have this many followers. I do this thing. Because it's a sense of superiority, or losing your sense of like knowing that we are all equal, whether you are rich, whether you have so many nice things, whether you have absolutely nothing and you have a total failure in life. It's like finding that sense of equality among all and the value of all is a beautiful thing. To see someone in such a big position of power and then also still to know his smallness, I guess. And he said, this analogy that I wanted to talk about that I haven't gotten to yet. The analogy is, he said, if you think of it like as an ocean, there are some little ripples, and then there are some big waves. And sometimes the ripples want to come together and say, let's, come together. Let's, focus on this thing together, and we'll make a bigger wave and get all these other little ripples, and then we'll make the hugest wave of ever. And he said, but also they are so much more than what they are on this surface of the ripple or the wave, or how big they are, how successful they are, how much change they've created. Underneath, they are the whole ocean, and there's a deeper nature to them than just being this ripple or the wave that has this much money and this much things and this much status and this much, whatever. And he told the audience, even if your whole life has been a failure, know that you are so much more than just those things. And I thought that was so beautiful. This field is it's so beautiful, and it's also can be so contradicting in many ways as well, because I've also learned, like in family constellations, I think I'm going to make a video about it after this, that there's also so much more to the human psyche of like things that are hidden underneath, or emotions that we haven't tapped into to move, to allow them to move so that they don't run our choices that we decide to make or the paths that we take in life. Like that is also a method and modality to be able to shift one's life to start taking down a different path. And I think many times in the spiritual field there can be this, like, it's almost like disassociation where you're so meditative and you're so like your eyes turned away from the world and from what is actually happening in reality, that you don't actually take any steps or make like choices that could actually change things. It's like having your head in the sand. And Abraham Hicks, I think, talks about this a little bit. I think when I began, I took those teachings in so, what's the word? Seriously. I was so serious about my meditative efforts. But in that time of my life, it was perfect for me because that was what I was needing in that chaotic time of my life. But now that I had more steady footing and more resources to be able to help myself, I think now being able to dive deeper into those harder emotions and allow them to move has also caused so much transformation in my life. We can talk about that at another time. I think this video has gone on a little bit too long. I could talk for hours and hours endlessly. It's a good thing I have a podcast, huh? Okay, so yes. So I have, like I said, today I'll be working on that Patreon to be able to make that go live so that you can help to support the channel to keep growing and to keep going if you love watching these videos and the work that I put into it as well. I put my heart and soul into it, and my reasons for doing this and my reasons for wanting to leave this behind is because I want to help to shift other people's lives in the ways that my life was shifted by the teachers I encountered along my path. And when I allow myself to receive and when I allow the company to grow on its own, then I have many more resources to be able to give out even more of myself, because I can't do it all alone. So if you would like to help in any way that you possibly can to help the channel to grow and to support the channel, you can either subscribe below, you can go into my Patreon and decide to support the channel monetarily, or let your friends know about the channel and share it on your social medias. That would also be very helpful for helping the channel to grow. And I hope these videos are helpful to you, that you enjoy these videos, that it creates some kind of impact in the actual ways that you're operating and moving in your lives and the choices that you make. And that's what they're here for. So I hope you take some of the things that you pick up here to heart, and that you start to change your life because of it. And thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave those down in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me and being here on Vibrate to Create. And I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.